folks, Zach Elliott at Feel Free to Argue. How you doing? Haven't been vlogging a whole bunch lately. Couple of reasons for that. One, I've been having trouble with flagging essential optimism. Every once in a while I do get these attacks of pointlessness, and I have a hard time feeling that doing something on YouTube is even worth the time. But these are just like temporary conditions. Everybody gets down, I think, from time to time. As far as like specific reasons for possibly being down, H1N1 is in the house. Both my son and later my wife were laid low by the disease du jour, and so I've been dealing with that. I will tell you that there's something about cleaning vomit off a wall that makes you not want to vlog. Not sure what it is. But there you go. There is a relationship. I want to talk about a couple of things, though, that have caught my interest lately. I'm hopefully do a little bit more vlogging just in general here. But the two things I want to talk about this morning have to do with they're both kind of tertiarily related to Afghanistan. The first one, though, is more about the military and about what we're willing to do, the kind of the emotional costs of getting the kind of boots on the ground that our policies have been calling for. And this has to do with a very good article that I read from Dahr, Jamail, writer of one of the more important books on the Iraq conflict, Beyond the Green Zone. And I think the co-author of the piece was Sarah LeMays. But in any event, what they're talking about is how people in the military are breaking their own rules for when people are okay to send to a conflict. It was really interesting because there's like a variety of levels on which this works. I mean, one of the things is that they really kind of downgrade PTSD diagnoses, and they put a lot of pressure on people who have these diagnoses to return to the front regardless of the fact that they have a diagnosed condition which should absolutely prevent them from returning. The way that this happens has to do with a lot of different ways. Putting them in situations where they're teased for their conditions. Occasionally things will be leaked about why they have that way, and then they can be that can be manipulated as well. Like the one guy who accidentally and the reason why he was having a lot of these experiences is that he was accidentally involved in the accidental killing of a couple of Iraqi children. And his commander found out about this and was actually throwing this in his face, teasing him about it, saying that he was going to report him for war crimes. Yeah. So that's kind of like on an interpersonal level. But I mean, this is a very systemic problem with the military avoiding its own regulations regarding when it is and isn't okay to send a soldier into combat. Like the Department of Defense has guidelines and it has all of these things, all of which are supposed to lead to a 90-day suspension for observation of a person from being deployed into combat. In the 3 months, this is the statistic that actually totally blew me away. In the 3 months leading up to the Iraq War, 43,000 of the people who were eventually deployed to that conflict were in this 90-day period with conditions that should have prevented them from being deployed to that conflict. So this is just like a gross systemic violation of its own rules. And they say that these kinds of tendencies are only escalating for the Afghanistan conflict. So this is not something that's just tied to the past, tied to the Bush administration. This is an ongoing systemic problem with the military, and is the way in which they are achieving the goals of getting the kinds of people into these conflicts that we say they have to do. So that's one part of it. The other part, which I just saw this morning in Democracy Now!, though it may have been yesterday's show, not sure, but I will post a link to that and also to the Dahr Jamail article. And that is that it turns out that we are funding the Taliban in Afghanistan. This is the way it works. This is very similar to something that was happening in Iraq. We are using private Afghan delivery systems to get military hardware to the front. And the military is not protecting these convoys. We're just kind of giving them the mandate to like get this from point A to point B. We don't care. We don't want to know how you do it. Well, the way they do it is they bribe the people who own various corridors that lead to the front. These people are typically very well connected with the Karzai government. Like, you want to talk about systemic corruption. Woohoo! Afghan has got it. And when you look at the functional realities of what this means, the guy in The Nation who wrote the article said that 10% of the U.S. military logistics budget for Afghanistan goes directly into the coffers of the Taliban. So it's interesting because, at one point, I think it was Juan Gonzalez on the program said, well, isn't this a way of, preventing U.S. casualties? And, they didn't, and the guy said, well, yeah, you do kind of prevent U.S. casualties because we're not protecting these convoys. And he said, well, but we still need to think about whether this is a sensible way to achieve that goal. But, I mean, no one went, the extra yard and said, well, so what? Because if we're paying the people who are shooting at the troops money to get our hardware to the troops, then they're just using that money to shoot at the troops. So it's death one way or the other. Because, I mean, if you're funding the Taliban, they're just using that money to buy weapons to fire at our people. So you're robbing Peter, killing Peter to save Paul. You're just avoiding paying in one place and moving it to another section of the emotional ledger. But there's really no functional difference. I mean, death is death. For the soldier that gets killed, he doesn't care whether he's defending a convoy or he's defending a base camp, somewhere in the Afghan mountains. I mean, he's just as dead either way. But I mean, I think it's just another indicator that shows that we really don't know what we're doing in Afghanistan. I mean, we have no clear goals. We have no government that we can point to that is worth supporting. And I mean, if you still feel that way after Karzai's recent victory, then you just haven't looked closely enough. Because, I mean, the government is just rife with systemic corruption. And he clearly stole that election. And the only reason why his opponent backed down and didn't go into the rerun is because there were no guarantees being offered that Karzai was just going to steal the election in precisely the same way that he'd stolen it before. So I mean, to his way of thinking, it's okay, and what will going through a farce a second time prove? Absolutely nothing. The system by which Karzai stole the election can work more than once. But anyway, I mean, like I said, I'm going to try to vlog a little bit more in the future. These are just a couple of things that have gotten my attention, a couple of things. And I've been certainly keeping up on the news, which has been as shocking and horrifying as it always is. But anyway, this has been Zach Elliott, and you can always, always feel free to argue. Thanks a lot, everybody. Hope you're having a good day.